Good day, everybody. So in our group, we are discussing about exceptions or privileges that allow for copyrights in the Finnish education system. And this is part of an assignment from a learning solution and teaching methods from our HAMK International Professional Teacher Education. And here are the team's members. And I will start with the first part, which is about right of quotation in Finland and linking a website also in Finland. And if we can remember correctly, like, when you write an article or some thesis, we all quote somebody or you say somebody say this and that. But of course, in the context of education, what are the possibilities and what are the limitations and what are the exceptions? And that's what we'll be discussing today. And of course, also when you also link to like a website as a teacher, also you give your material to students and what are also the like possibility and of course, what is allowed, what is not allowed. So for the first part about right of quotation in Finland, we'll be talking about what is it in itself and of course some of the exceptions. For example, like you can quote like other people's work, but what are the limitations? You don't want something too long and all this kind of stuff. And in essence, you should just not quote for quoting sake. It should actually be that it supports your work, something like that. So let's assume you're talking about, let's say, the effect of employment on like immigrants or something like that. Then you want to bring another work that supports this discussion at hand, and that is what is allowed. And of course, what are the like length, for example, category? There's really no strict rule about how long it should be. So is it 2 letters, is it 2 lines or something like that? But the whole general principle is that you cannot take entire work of somebody else and quote it. So some brief parts, maybe a few lines or just few words. And of course, inside the quotation, like I put on the right side, 2 or 3 lines is fine. And of course, you can quote text, you can quote part of a picture, you can quote audio related contents and all this kind of stuff like that. So yeah, that is about quotation. Then of course also about linking websites. You can link website, of course, for your like students. You can ask them to go to another website to learn more, but then you have to make it clear that they are leaving your own material. So this is like another like external link. And what are those kind of category? You can link a text, you can link images, videos, and of course there's this copyright society or something, or they manage copyright, which is the copiosto. Especially for audios, we really have to check that. And that's what I have about my own side. Please, next person.
Okay, my part is about Copiosto. Copiosto is a giant copyright organization serving more than 50,000 creative authors and encourage the creative economy in Finland. It represents a large group of creative authors such as writers, visual artists, translators, actors, directors, and journalists. The customers of Copiosto are educational institutions, businesses, and public administration. Copiosto license permit them to copy and use copyrighted publications and works digitally and use TV contents in different manners. The remuneration for the copying of books, newspapers, magazines, and work published online are distributed to the member organizations that forward them to authors and publishers in form of various grants and awards. Remunerations gathered from the use of audiovisual works are mainly distributed as individual remunerations to the authors and performance of the work. The Finnish National Agency for Education has obtained a copyright license to be used in preschools, comprehensive schools, and upper secondary schools. The copying licenses allow photocopying and scanning extracts from printed publications. It also permits saving, downloading, and printing online images or photos and text. For the universities and universities of applied sciences, the Rectors Conference of Finnish Universities of Applied Sciences, ARENA, and Universities Finland have attained a copying license for Finnish universities and University of Applied Sciences. The license for higher education institutions applies to free education, research, and internal administration of higher education institutions, and the open university and higher education delivered by the universities and higher education institutions. The license permits photocopying of foreign and uh, Finnish publications under the following arrangements. For books, magazines, and advertisements, maximum 20 pages can be copied, or in case maximum of half of the publication per student in a given term. Music papers and sheet music's maximum of 10 pages can be published. Exercises books and books containing the answers for exercises, books, slides, and transparencies copies are not allowed at all. It also allows copying from a digital source such as the internet, maximum of 20 images or A4 sized pages per website per term per student is allowed. The license also permits the transforming into a digital format of Finnish and foreign materials, making of digital copies and distributing the digital materials in a closed network, scanning text images, sheet music, and song lyrics. Preschools and comprehensive schools, they can do maximum 5 pages in any case, maximum of half of the publication per term for a single student. Upper secondary schools, maximum 15 pages, in any case, a maximum of 15% of the publication per term per student. Higher education institutions, maximum 20 pages, in any case, a maximum of 20% of the publication per term per student. Online content could be transferred to a teaching group in a closed network, for example, Moodle. Permission does not apply to work, exercise, and response books, domestic plays, music, moving images, and computer programs. However, copies of copyrighted protected resources can't be uploaded on Moodle. That's it from my side. Now, Manu will present the next part.
Rights to use creative works performances in Finland in the context of teaching. Performing artists and performance copyright holders have rights called neighboring rights, in addition to the copyrights for the authors and composers. Neighboring rights protect the royalties and payments that performing artists and performance copyright holders receive for each public performance or playing made of their work. While copyright protection is valid during the lifetime of the author plus 70 years after the author's death, neighboring rights last between 50 and 70 years from the time of the recording of the performance. Regarding the performance of a work during teaching, according to Finnish copyright law, article number 21, there is an exception that allows teachers or someone else to perform a work in the context of teaching without having to pay neighboring rights if this is a music work and it has already been published or made public. However, the performance ought to be done only in the classroom. It can be done directly, for example, when the teacher or someone else sings or plays an instrument in the classroom. Or it can be done indirectly, for example, if the teacher or someone else plays a work of music from an audio recording, like a CD, in the classroom. To qualify for an exception of neighboring rights payment, students must be present in the room in which the music performance takes place. Likewise, this exception only applies to teaching offered in non-profit settings, free schools and universities. It does not apply to teaching taking place in institutions that charge students a fee. The exception does not apply to performances of a play or a film, unless the right holder has explicitly granted permission to do so.
Go. Today, I'm going to talk about license for municipalities to play music and also on the topic of license for recording and playing of TV and radio programs. We means our team members have already spoken on the other topics, but I think these two topics are also quite important with regard to uh, the licenses and how the and what role it plays, for the music producers, how they can make a living. And that is a critical part to understand when we talk about this topic. So here, the license for municipalities to play music. When do I need a music license? Irrespective of whether it's an individual or a government or a municipality, everybody needs to have a license. So, like if I put this into categories, in the society, if you hear a music in a restaurant, coffee shops or stores, fitness centers, taxis, in fact, or even hair salons or even beauty salons, health centers, nursing homes, this are all part of the society. And anywhere you play the music, you are playing any sort of music, then you should have a license to play. So that is one thing which we had to keep in mind. When you play background music in any client facing space of your business, such as in store or in a waiting or in a treatment room, as well as in the reception of an reception or in an office area, you still need a license. When you use any of these, following to play music, like on the radio, internet, or even in the television, a record, or even computer or streaming service meant for public performance, such as soundtrack, the Spotify, that is one example I can give. All this needs a license. So basically everybody, if you're using somebody's work, it has to be licensed. So why it is necessary in the first place that we need to obtain the license for the use of music? Music will not produce by music is not produced in the air. Somebody has to spend their time and money, and they have to make their living by doing this. So they need to be compensated accordingly. That is one reason, we this, the license has to be obtained. So the means basically the music producers are the, we the producers of this music or the original work. They get the royalties in form of the royalties for their, for their work which is being done. So means creating music often involves various expenses such as studio, production cost, equipment rental, the music author's time, and time spent together at a sound camp and marketing. So for all this, that needs to be compensated. So the license is one way to compensate the work of the people who do this job for, to create this music in the first place. So how in the from the Finland point of view, how and where we can obtain this music license? Music license can be obtained through this website, which is mentioned here, Musicitalo. That can be, we can obtain it from there. Then the current in 2021, the municipal annual license fee was around 11.76 euro cents per resident per calendar year. That was the price which the annual license for municipalities in Finland, it was being charged. So then moving on to use of TV programs in education license for recording and playing of TV and radio programs. There are two things which we need to consider here. The Finnish National Agency for Education, that is sponsored by the Finnish government, has acquired licenses to record and perform TV and radio programs in education from Kopiesto. Kopiesto is an organization which coordinates in providing the licenses. So broadcasting companies and audiovisual producers across Finland. The license acquired by the Finnish National Agency for Education applies to all the preschool, comprehensive school, and also the upper secondary schools. Now, means with this, the staff or the teachers who are working for the schools, comprehensive schools at these educational institutions, they can use it free of cost. It includes the teachers as well as the students. Now, moving on, who are authorized, to record programs, and what does the license enables, basically. So to understand this, this becomes critical here. The license authorizes the teachers, authorizes the teachers and the staff of educational institutions to use the TV programs in education. And also the recording and presenting of TV programs, and broadcast on the which are broadcasted on the national Finnish national channels like that YLE, TV1, and We call it as ULA TV2 or ULA Thema or FEM and MTV3. These are the Finnish national channels. Any programs which are broadcasted here can be used, are presented and used for education. Presenting Finnish programs from ULA Arena and Eleva Arkisto also can be used. There are some exceptions in the case which programs are allowed and not allowed to be recorded and presented. So some which I would highlight, this is self-explanatory, but I would like to highlight a couple of points. Films in cinema or video distribution cannot be presented with this license. And also Copisto license does not allow the recording of Finnish or foreign films currently in cinema or video distribution, foreign serials, advertisements, programs broadcasted on the international channels that are not allowed. The radio program means the radio programs, record formats, and presenting films is also not the one point which I would like to highlight is this: presenting films and recordings, a license do not apply to the presentation of the purchased, lent or rented recordings or videos published online, or like example on YouTube in teaching. These formats require a separate permission from the copyright holders. So this is the key point which needs to be noted here. The record formats, you can record these programs on a DVD or a digital TV recorder. For example, you can also save some programs on online servers that are connected to the educational institution's own network or in a closed network that is shared by educational institutes and included within the scope of our license. So these are some of the things which we need to keep in mind when we are using this license. So other couple of instructions briefly, which I would like to touch upon is that outdated and obsolete programs must be removed from the usage that cannot be stored forever. It has to be removed. Purchased, lent or rented recordings such as phonograms, cassette tapes for learning a language or films on a VHS or a DVD cannot be copied for educational use. That we need to keep in mind. Presenting a film on a VSS like this is like a tape. Earlier, now it has been replaced by the DVDs and the Blu-rays, but earlier it was VHS. It was still in use in some cases. In that case, we require a separate license. Recordings produced on the basis of our license cannot ever be used for other purpose other than the education and research. Means, in other words, that you cannot use this to commercially. Basically, you cannot make money out of using these resources. So lastly, how and where to obtain the TV and radio program licenses in Finland? There is you go to this Kopiosto website, which is again handled by the Ministry of Education, where you can apply and again it's an NGO, it's independent organization where you can go fill in the form and based on your needs you can pay the fees and get the license. So and these are some of the references cited for this presentation, and thank you for your time.